So for me, home ownership kind of became that status symbol or that thing that six figures really couldn't do. And so, I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to be that individual who, will make those six figures, but home ownership became more of an example and a purpose. And, it came with creativity. It came with someone who could change all the rooms, who could move the furniture around, who could do things a little bit differently, but it also came with lessons like, having your pipe burst in the ceiling, lessons like having to change all the doors, lessons like, having to remodel things, or even sometimes like having to deal with shady contractors and then just realizing like you can fix things yourself. And so, to buy my home at a young age, all of it has been rooted in the idea of going all the way back to that seed that was planted when I was younger. And it's, there are good people in the world and they need help. And my mom's one of those people. And so, home ownership for me was like, I am I'm satisfying my six-figure goal, like my wealth building goal, because homeownership is the ultimate way to build wealth. But I'm also doing something that's equally altruistic, because I'm being an example to the community. And I'm giving my space, even in this time, I'm giving my space to help people, that need it. And so, and I mean, that's a
Mhm.
completely different story, but I have had the opportunity to use my home to help another family member who, are trying to get back on their feet. And, if the space is there, I'm like, I'm open, but through that, we talk about how can we create a plan forward. And I feel like, I'm watching that person grow or building on our relationship because I'm able to help them in this way.
Mm. So one another thing that I love about what you're sharing is you can kind of have, the word and is a pretty simple and powerful word. You can make money and aim to build wealth
Mhm.
and be altruistic,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, it's not or it's not mutually exclusive.
Mhm.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about is you graduated from Fisk University summa cum laude, and I think the time you graduated was a pretty tough time. That was COVID years. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, yes.
And I think we were collaborating from a work perspective. So were you balancing a job as well as being a student? What was going on at that time?
So I started working with Home for USA officially at the second semester of my senior year at the beginning of 2021. I graduated in 2021. I was on a study abroad in London at the end of 2019 and came back to COVID in 2020.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was a shock, but I had already been out of the country for 3 months, and so I was also sick when I first came back, so maybe I had, like, early
Mhm.
COVID and just didn't know that. But, um, I was out of the country, and so coming to the campus and then having to abruptly get back off of the campus, it didn't mean much to me because it was like, "Okay, well, I'm back at home, and, I have online classes." Um because of COVID, there wasn't a lot of work. And so I was grateful to have Home for USA to be able to do some things virtually. And that's where I worked on helping build the curriculum and like really mapping out a lot of the programming that we have with CFA now. And so that role as scholar director, I was like the scholar who was directing all the other scholars, turned into student director. And I officially, stepped into the role to try to make sure that programming kind of matches the mission and flow that Home for USA wants. And so, COVID for me was a little less of a challenge because I was fortified in home already. I was building PCs at the time. And so, any gaming computer or personal computer that I had, I would build those. And so, of course, I wanted to be in front of them all day. And so, for me, it was less challenging to continue to work but more challenging mentally, to just kind of be in the same space. And so that's probably part of one of the reasons I was like, having my own home is kind of going to be cool because, you know, I got my own house and so I can do what I want. But I didn't realize like well, it's just gonna be you now. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so like it was like,
Yeah.
oh wait, maybe I thought about that wrong, but you know,
Mm.
that's
How
what my thought process was.
how old were you when you bought your home?
22? I believe I was born in 98, 21. So yeah, I think it's 22. I think
That's
it's 20.
incredible. Yeah,
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 thank you,
that is
thank you,
really
thank you.
amazing.
Mhm,
And again, just investing in your community and putting, roots down. So take
mhm,
us a little bit into the present, and you're doing some work. It sounds like the first thing on your bio is that you are an entrepreneur. So
mhm.
what does this mix of things look like that you spend your time on?
Okay. And so I still consider my salary role to be entrepreneurial. I work with Home for
Mm,
USA as a student director, and basically I work on programming, student engagement, and just making sure that our outcomes match the mission and the value that our partners are looking for. And so in that role, I get to meet so many amazing people. You're one of those people. And so opportunities like these come out of that work, and that's why I call it entrepreneurial. I also work with an organization. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nick, may I quickly ask you, what is the mission of Home for USA for those who don't know?
To close the wealth gap and to provide access to home ownership for all. And so to make sure that anyone who comes through our program can have access to wealth and home ownership, but with a goal to close the wealth gap through home ownership.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so
And you were saying more. Go ahead,
yeah,
please.
outside of Home for USA, I do work with an organization called Reach Memphis. I was actually a student in Reach Memphis's program, and they sent me to Phillips Exeter for 5 weeks. Reach Memphis is a high school development program that basically takes high potential students and prepares them for college leadership in life through advanced career and college counseling, but also sending them on a pivotal summer experience after their sophomore year. And so I was a student in this program. I did a summer experience, and they called me when I graduated to kind of help out with their student leadership group, which I helped kind of name when I was in school. And so that grew into an opportunity to actually help them as their director of admissions and summer experience, because one of my former mentors was actually moving out of the organization to retire. And so in that role, I've been able to give back directly to my high school by providing opportunities for students to come into a program that really didn't have a lot of students from Hillcrest since I had left. And even before me, they hadn't had a lot of students from Hillcrest. And being the director of admissions and summer experience now, I guess I have all this new information. I'm like, oh wow, like I'm informed about this, but it's like that's
Mhm.
my job. But anyway, and so that organization has done so many things in terms of community and opportunity and access for students in the community. And they truly reach Memphis. And so when you talk about making it in Memphis, you can't make it in Memphis without at least shacking up with an organization that wants Memphis to reach beyond what it has thought that it could achieve. And so that relationship, and one thing I will say is relationships give us wings. Relationships give us wings. Our truths at Home for USA embody our DNA and culture. And one of the truths that I really live by is relationships give us wings. And the relationship that I had with Reach Memphis actually created the opportunity that I have with the Memphis Grizzlies, which was basically to come in and be a curriculum facilitator for their high school readiness program. And it's an all boys school. And so, they basically wanted an individual who could connect with the students, but also be able to teach them what they needed to be successful in high school. And so they asked me to be a part of that. And since I started, like literally all of this started like 2021, maybe early 2022-ish for some things, but I was pretty much doing all of my work like in 2021. But uh that opportunity grew into me helping build the curriculum, mentoring with them, like having so many exciting years and meeting so many young students. And even now, my first class is actually graduated and are going to college. And so the first class of eighth graders that I had 5 years ago are now going to be freshmen in college this year. And so those type of things, I say to myself, you've done or you're doing what you said you wanted to do. And so it's a sense of fulfillment, but it's also in this what I call the double edged sort of life, a sense of redirection. It's, sustain, but what are you doing now? Or how are you rebuilding yourself so that you can do more in a different way. The goal of a mission is to complete it, right? Even with the mission of an organization, like a public benefit organization is erected to solve a problem. If that problem is solved, then, the need for the organization more so becomes sustainability. And continue growth and evolving. I've become an example, but how do I take that to the next level? While also recognizing that I did a lot of things young. And so I made more mistakes than someone who did do things at an older age would. And I want to be able to protect mental health, protect physical health, protect relationships, but also move towards this new sense of purpose that I have. And that purpose is, it's not starting a family just yet. What is in between that? And I think for me, it's become helping myself so that I can help others more. And so that's kind of where I am now. After Endure Anyway was the end of all of that. Okay, I'll say it like that. That was the end of an era.
Mhm.
And so now I'm building who I am now, but sustaining myself so that I can support others more.
Mhm. And that is such an important theme. It's something that much later in my life, and I'm glad that you're focusing on it for yourself as a younger person, having done all that you've already done at a very young age. But
Hmm.
it's come to me a bit later in my life to really realize, like, even if I'm service oriented, you really do have to attend to yourself as well, your well-being, and truly, if we're going to sustain any of the things we're doing, there's no point if we're going to burn out, right? Because
Right.
clearly, then you have these ebbs and flows. So that definitely resonates with me. So as we kind of get into this latter part of our conversation,
Hmm.
I am curious, as you have been through some of these challenges, right?
Hmm.
What grounds you? Where do you get your strength from in the tougher times?
I think I'm still learning that. I think I latch on to comfort outside of fear. Um, and so, I'm looking more towards solutions. And if it takes me to work a little harder, or like I have to push myself a little more, the comfort in having a solution is better than being fearful and worrisome about, the situations at hand. I think in tougher situations like losing a close family member and then losing my dad 3 weeks later, um, that entire situation was just an enigma of the uncontrollables. Like it was absolutely crazy. And to go through that experience and to only be able to stand in the center of it all, and even the help that you extend or reach, you know, it's kind of like you have one pole in front of you and there's a rope. And if you pull this side of the rope, then you go up. If you pull this side of the rope, then you go down. But there are also other people on either sides of those ropes. And so if you go down, other people go down with you. If you go up, other people go up with you. And so it made me realize that, I can only control what's in front of me, and sometimes, like, you just gotta pull a rope. And so, it's like you have to face the direction and move forward. And I think that's what grounds me, the ability to walk forward, the path itself. And so, um, I do try to find things. Like I said, I'm still learning it. Like I'm so young. Like everybody say, you got such an old mind, but I'm like, I really am young. Like, the older my mind gets, or my spirit gets, or the more wisdom comes back to me in this recycle or rebirth or whatever it's called, um, I find that I still don't know nothing. Like the more that I know, the more that I know I don't know anything. And like it's just I don't know, it's just so it makes me laugh. Like I'll say it like that. It makes me laugh because it's like I'm getting smarter, but I'm also getting more ambiguous at the same time. But anyway, the point that I'm trying
Welcome
to
to our club of humanity.
Yay! Yay!
Anyone
Um,
who tells you they have it all figured out is kind of not really saying it like it is.
no, but yeah, I'm still figuring it out. So I'm trying things like meditation. I am getting back into the gym. I did kickboxing for a while in 2021. It helped me lose a lot of weight, which I thought was awesome. And like regaining that weight, like it makes me motivated to go back and be like, okay, like I'm still a little shy. I'm like, look, I still have the scaredness to not like want to work out or like you know how you just don't want to go, but it's like once you get there, everything's fine. But
Mm,
it's
mhm,
those type of things that I'm using to help ground me emotionally, but build me up physically. And like I'm still learning this thing of purpose through pain. I can work all day. I could probably skip lunch and write you the best dissertation you've seen in the last 15 years. But when it comes to physically pushing myself past my limit, that is where I feel my mind has not built enough strength in these situations. And so, um, that's what I try to do. I try to challenge myself, and I try to do some things that'll help me like calm my mind, knowing that, not only am I dealing with my own things in front of me, but I have roles where people are expecting me to serve them in a certain way. And I have to make sure that I show up the best that I can. Always better, always evolving, always innovating. Um, as I can. And so, those things that I'm doing for myself are really, like I said before, building myself so that I can help others better.
That makes so much sense.
Mhm,
Just the simple and wise um, things that you're saying about take one step forward. Like in those moments where, you can kind of hit rock bottom,
mhm,
like what do you do? Like you said, pull the rope. And that's powerful, right? Because that step and then another step and then others seeing you
mhm,
doing that and staying as strong as possible, even though quite honestly, we're human, we're
mhm.
gonna falter. We're gonna have
Yeah.
those moments where it's not in our control if there's
Mhm,
grief and there's personal tragedy. And you've certainly had a lot of that in these recent years. So thank you so much for sharing because it just again, the whole concept of our Jahaan podcast is to bring our humanity forward, right?
right. Mhm,
And we are strong and we are in the moments that kind of push us down. Those are the ones that we need to get up from and kind of support each other. So I love all of this as we wrap up. Um, Everyone's talking about this, but I want to kind of go beyond the sort of superficial. So, what do you think in the age of AI? Um, as we think about continuing to be change agents in our
mhm,
personal lives, in our communities, in our country, in our world, again, there's a lot of concern around AI.
mhm.
There's a lot of excitement as well. I, for one, I'd love for it to cure some diseases. Lots of things
Right,
like that could come out of the fast paced technology, but there are also lots of guardrails that need to be put
right.
in place. So
Mhm,
I think both of us may have in common this uh, perspective on involvement and being a participant, using your leadership for purpose can always make change. So, what are your thoughts? What's your perspective as a younger person
mhm.
who is now coming beyond that endure anyway phase into your new phase in life? How are you seeing both the opportunities and the challenges around the age of AI?
Um, I'm grateful. I'll start there. I'm curious. And in curiosity, there's concern over the unsafe realms of AI, and the things that AI can do to harm people or harm someone's quality of life. But I'm grateful. And with all, things that are created in this world, there's an aspect of them to admire. and there's an aspect of them to fear. And like a volcano or a thunderstorm or a rainforest or a beautiful spider or a snake or a bird or even the dog that people love so much, there's going to be good and bad. And so I am choosing to step into the water and hope that that does cross my path. It's not something that burns my skin or like hurts me or tears me, but it's something that I can recognize, see, avoid, and also alert others that stay away from this side of the water. Like that territory is not safe. And so gratefulness comes from all that I just said before. I'm moving out of an endure anyway space. And I think without AI, I would have not been able to manage so much. And while I can still do it, the ability to think through difficult concepts, research information quickly, to be able to bounce creative ideas, and just basically, in a sense, have a conversation assistant. I tried not to teeter the line of like conversation partner or like friend or anything like that because it's not like it's just an agreeable system. You know, what you put in there is what is going to give back to you, unless you train it to do something differently. And it's not going to challenge you off first rip. So it's not a reliable source for any type of social, emotional, changes or advice. Without a vetted professional, but it can be because it gets the answer there faster and it can wade through the questions without emotion, without perspective, and without bias. I'll leave it there. But also opening myself for the opportunity of a continued conversation. I am happy to be a part of the community and to explore what our Jahan is going to really do in bringing all of us together.
Thank you so much, Nick. I always value your perspective and absolutely, with AI, it's sort of like how can it be a tool that humans use rather than trying to replace the human, which obviously that can never truly happen on this life and this planet.
Mhm,
With that, I want to say thank you so much. I've learned from you. I've enjoyed the conversation with you, and most importantly, I hope our audience is connecting with you in various ways,
mhm,
and looking forward to seeing what other trail you're blazing going
mhm.
forward. And if anyone does want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. It's the normal LinkedIn dash, and it's just slash Whiteside and Q. And so that's Whiteside and as in Nancy, Q as in Quinn, or just look me up as Nicholas Whiteside.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick, and everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. Have a great day. Take care.